Now today we're showing some different techniques on how you can bleed brakes yourself. So let me show you the first option, which is using a vacuum pump, and then later on I'll show you some other options you can do without the vacuum pump. This is the Mighty Vac. The model is MV8000. Everything you see here is included in the kit. Generally around $30, that's what they run for. I'll include a link in the description box below to Amazon if you want to purchase one of these. But essentially you have the pump. We have a little small vinyl hose, maybe 2.5 inches, and you zip tie the ends, okay, because you don't want any air leaks. Container, and then another piece of hosing, maybe 5-6 inches in length. Again, zip tie the ends. Usually if you have an air leak, it's going to be right here. Now let me put this down. Now also, inside here, I have another maybe 3 inches worth of hosing as well. This you don't have to zip tie. And sometimes I'll put some grease on top of the container just to prevent as much air leakage as possible, but you want to make sure this is real tight. So let me hook this up to the bleeder, and I'll show you this technique. Again, 2 other techniques right after this. Now right in the rear of the caliper you have the brake bleeder. Now I use a crescent wrench. If you take a look at the angle or the shape of the wrench compared to a normal 10mm wrench, you can see it's quite different, and that's because this gives you a very good grip for these fittings. So just place the wrench on there, okay, then take the end of the hose, and then I'll zip tie this as well. Again, you want to prevent as many air leaks as possible. Okay, let me get this, and then what you're going to do. Now the whole point of brake bleeding is to retrieve the air out of the system. So this makes the job very easy, very quick as well. So first test and make sure that's holding pressure, which it is. As you can see, the needle is not dropping back down, so everything is nicely sealed. Then open up the bleeder valve, 1/4 of a turn, okay? And the old fluid, let me close this off, the old fluid will end up in this jar, and then get rid of it. In other words, recycle it. Don't put it back at the master cylinder because it's old fluid. You want to refill the master cylinder with new fluid, and I'll show you in a moment what I mean. So again, pump it up, open the valve. You just do this maybe 5-6 times on each wheel, and generally you'd be perfectly fine. The other thing is if you have ABS, disconnect the negative terminal to the battery because you have sensors on each wheel. So very important, make sure you do that, or you can disconnect the ABS sensor at the wheel, okay? So do it again. Open up the valve. And let me come in for a close-up just to show you what the air bubbles look like, and we'll jump over to the master cylinder. Again, you don't want to make sure the master cylinder does not run dry, and I'll show you that as well. Okay, we have pressure. Open this up a little bit, not a lot, maybe a 1/4 turn, and as you can see, this is pretty clean. Small amount of air bubbles. Generally, when you first do this, the air bubbles will be quite large. Okay, close it off. Just do a couple of times. Now let's also check the master cylinder to see how the fluid is doing. So you never want to let the master cylinder run dry. If you let it run dry, then essentially your air is entering back in the system, and you'll have to repeat the process all over again. So very important, just keep on topping off the fluid as you do this. When the old fluid ends up in that container, just discard it. Don't reuse it, okay? Now, let me show you another technique if you do not have the vacuum pump. Now, option 2 is finding some type of apparatus that you can use to press against the brake pedal, and that will allow you to get out of the vehicle, open up the bleeder, let all the air out, close the bleeder, come back in, and repeat the process. So let me just explain it, and then I will show it right after. So what you want to do is pump the brake pedal 3 times. In this case, we'll use a dumbbell. We'll place the dumbbell against the brake pedal. That will hold it down. Then we can get out of the vehicle, open up the bleeder, let all the air bubbles out of the brake, close off the bleeder, come back to the vehicle, and repeat the process. It's time consuming, but it's essentially the same thing if you had someone helping you. They're just holding the brake pedal down. That's all they're doing. They're holding the brake pedal down, you're opening up the bleeder, closing it, and then they're pumping the brake again 3 times, holding it, you're opening up the bleeder, and just that's all that they're doing. So this essentially replaces that person, but again, it takes time. The other option is if you have electric seats, this makes it very, very easy. You grab a piece of wood that you can wedge between the seat and the brake pedal, and as you're sitting in the car, you pump the brakes 3 times, hold it with your foot, and then move the seat forward. And when the wood makes contact with the brake pedal, it's going to hold it. You can move your foot, and now the piece of wood is wedged, and that also works. So either one. So let me show you both techniques, and we'll wrap everything up here. So pump it 3 times, hold it down, grab your dumbbell, whatever you're going to use. Now the other technique is using a piece of wood. Pump your brake, hold it down, and then I am gracefully okay, and that's it. That's actually in a sense easier than lugging around a dumbbell. Go to the brake, bleed it. Once you complete bleeding all of the brakes, as a last step, start the vehicle, depress the brake pedal, make sure it's nice and firm, it's not falling to the floor, it's not spongy. If it still feels a little spongy, not very responsive in a sense, then you still have air in the system, okay? So don't rush it. In terms of cost, if you did this or you brought your vehicle to a shop, generally they'll charge about $100. So this can save you $100. Give yourself an hour, and you can generally get this done pretty darn quickly and doing the right job. So thank you for watching. If this helped you, please subscribe, thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.